It's Security Weekly News, home of middle out encryption. I'm Doug White, and it's episode 389 on Friday, the 24th of May, 2024. We've got Gold Press Latinum, VBScript, ORBS, Rockwell, Chrome, Sky, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News.
Created in 2005 and hosted by security industry veterans, Paul's Security Weekly is your source for in-depth coverage of the latest vulnerabilities, exploits, and security research. Our weekly security news discussion dives deep into the security issues we face today and potential solutions in a fun and lively atmosphere. Each week, we bring on guests from the security community to learn about their journey and discuss topics relevant to their work and research. You can also subscribe to our show by visiting securityweekly.com/subscribe or look for Paul's Security Weekly in your favorite podcast catcher. We've recorded a ton of content over the years, so we created Spotify playlists featuring some of our favorite episodes, including interviews with Marcus Random, John McAfee, and Chris Roberts, to name a few. You can find them at securityweekly.com/starter packs.
Yeah, all right, from the island of Elba, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to keep the air flowing into the studio. No, I really don't. Hold it down. It could get ugly here. I'm back from the lovely city of Dallas, Texas, and the lovely Cigar Art Bar in Bishop Arts District. Hope you enjoyed the much higher quality production whilst I was away with professional hosts and all who didn't even seem a little drunk. All right. Well, in the second half of this year, I guess that means July. I don't know. I mean, that seems like the second half, but most people do quarters, but whatever. Microsoft is going to start deprecating VBScript. Deprecating, I've always had to explain that to beginning programming students, which most of you are not, but deprecating, of course, means that something that still exists, even though it may go away at any time. Well, this antique scripting language will still be available as an on-demand feature, but you know what deprecated means. So you probably, if you're using VBScript for something, should probably be making plans for alternatives. If you're not using it, you're probably delighted to see it going away since it's such a threat in general. There's lots of features on demand in Windows now, like one of my favorites that I almost always add is Windows Subsystem for Linux, which has ups and pluses and minuses. I usually add it immediately, though, so I can run Linux on Windows, and I know some of you are out there screaming hypocrisy that why not run Windows on Linux, run Wine, all this kind of stuff. But I need Windows for things that we teach at school and in forensics that just don't run on Linux very well. But when you need a dose of something clean and refreshing to wipe the bitter, putrid taste of Windows away, well, okay, I could just log into my Linux servers and use the fresh, pure mountain juice of Linux instead of the Linux and Windows kind of thing. But you know what I mean. Anyway, the deprecation plan's in 3 phases. The first phase is the one that we're talking about now, and that's supposed to happen in, I guess, July, the second half of this year. And so basically that will mean that it's no longer installed. So you would have to add it as a special service. Now the second phase of this, which is quite a ways out, really, is in 2027. And that's when it will no longer be available on demand. And then they said that sometime after that, in phase 3, the DLL will be removed. And then I guess that means it's truly gone. You will, I guess you'd have to manually install the DLL or something to get VBScript to work. So love it or hate it, it's slowly going to disappear into the West, even though 2027 is pretty far out there, but it will be here before you know it. So be ready if you're using it. Speaking of 2027, I won't say why. Chinese state-backed hackers are using a vast proxy server network that's been created from private servers and compromised devices to conduct their operations. If you aren't familiar with these things, and you kind of probably are, but they're called Operational Relay Box Networks, or ORBS. And these are meshes which are administered by independent operators and provide access to various state-sponsored APTs. I guess they could be accessed for other purposes, but they're mostly used by these state-sponsored APTs. So these things are like botnets, right? But they add a lot more capability, which is made up of virtual devices, end-of-life routers, or any kind of router that could be compromised, and IoT products, and whatever. Mandiant said they had been tracking multiple orbs, and two of them are being used by APTs known for espionage and intellectual theft operations that is associated with the Chinese government. Orb 3, or Space Hop as it is known, is quote a very active network leveraged by multiple China Nexus threat actors, which includes APT-5 and APT-15, and is primarily being used by them for reconnaissance and vulnerability exploitation in the rest of the world. Space Hop was used in December of 2022 to exploit a critical vulnerability in Citrix ADC and Gateway, which was then linked by the National Security Agency in the United States to APT-5, which is also called Bronze Fleetwood or Keyhole Panda, among other things. Bronze Fleetwood really sounds like the name of a 70s blues band. Probably a good one, too. I'd buy that album, right? Bronze Fleetwood. They sound like a good band. Mandiant said that Space Hop is a provision network that uses a relay server hosted in Hong Kong or China by a cloud provider, and then installed an open source command and control framework that allows management of the nodes. So most of the nodes are cloned Linux-based images, and they act as proxies for malicious traffic to an exit node that communicates with the targeted victim environments. So basically, it's just this big stack to disguise what's going on. So you got these back-end command and control servers. You've got a whole bunch of sort of, bounce around things. And then there's an exit node, which has an actual static IP in the world. And they change it all the time. The other one is called FloraHawks, whatever that means. And that one has an adversary-controlled operations server, routers, and IoT devices, along with VPS servers that run the traffic via Tor. And they also use other hacked routers to hide all the traffic. But basically, all these things make blocking IPs or detecting, malicious IPs very, very difficult, since they change it up all the time. The second one was mostly being used by APT-31, which is also called zirconium, and it is being used primarily for intellectual property theft. And I mean, these are things that the Chinese government has been doing as long as they've been, since the time of Mao. They had, but now it's a lot easier, right? Because used to, they had to actually send agents or recruit agents on the ground who would steal intellectual property and so forth. Likewise, all that espionage work and what have you. Now, like I said, all this is nothing new, really. And if you ever used Mixmaster to hide your emails, or Tor to access the dark web, you kind of get the idea, right? Orb IPs are very short-lived, and they have an average lifetime currently of 31 days before they change it. And the Chinese operators tend to cycle this monthly all the time anyway, so there's always some different source IP involved. So if you're blocking things, you're constantly blocking IPs. But just as a warning, they're coming. They're using advanced techniques. They're very well hidden. And they're out there, and hey, don't forget, they still use the old traditional stuff too. They've still got agents on the ground who are either paid operatives or are recruited operatives internally. They may be in your company now, so batten down the hatches. Everything has AI in it now. You open a can of soup, it's AI enabled. A can of alphabet soup in New Jersey last week spelled out the key phrases from the Necronomicon and summoned up Yog Sothoth in some toddler's bib. It was a big mess, but, because of AI, well, everyone's using it whether they want to or not. Well, this report was about use in the workplace, and there was certainly no exception to these rules there. AI is in everything people are using in the workplace, whether they want it or not. And of course, because it's there, more workers are using it. Workers are using ChatGPT, Gemini, Bard, whatever. According to this report from Cyberhaven, more than twice as often now workers are using this than they did last year. The problem with this is that AI is like a friend you're hanging out with in the pub, drinking shot after shot of cheap tequila, until you decide to ask that really sensitive question like, I wonder what would happen if I tried to put this snooker ball in my mouth. And later in the emergency room, you become friends for life. Now, I mean, much like that pub friend who took you to the ER, later the friend may tell all their friends, and those friends tell their friends, and next thing you know, Augustus de Morgan appears and slaps you. But AI chatbots have chat in their titles, and they love to talk. That's what they're for. And they aren't real good at keeping secrets. So after your little chat, they may tell someone else about it or use what you said as something and display it somewhere else. The report starts to get scary about that. So tech employees were, of course, the heaviest users of AI tools, and they sent data into the bot sphere at the rate of more than 2 million times per 100,000 employees. And they copied AI-generated content at a rate of more than 1.6 million times per 100,000 employees. So of all this data submitted, 27.4% of it was considered, quote, sensitive, which represents about a 156% increase over sensitive data being submitted to AI bots in the previous year. The most common type of data that was submitted was customer support data. So I presume that means that they were, basically when a customer calls in, like I did the other day and said, "Hey, airline X, why is your app not allowing me to check in?" And then this person on the other end who appeared to be quite clueless about this pastes my question into an AI bot and says, "What does this mean?" This represented 16.3% of the total. Source code was about 12.7%, and R&D data was about 10.8%. So that's some pretty scary stuff to be posting into some anonymous cloud-based AI. Now, most of the big AI players do offer enterprise solutions which supposedly have more security and privacy, but most of the use in this report was on personal accounts, 73.8% of it. So that means they're literally taking your information, their source code, or other proprietary information and posting it into things like ChatGPT. Wow. Now, I mean, basically what this means is somebody's uploading proprietary code, and it's possible the AI shares this code with somebody else as even a potential solution to a problem. So if I paste my source code in and say, "Can you help me debug this?" the AI may turn around and share that with someone else. So you may want to address this in your training and policy like right now, because eventually one of your employees is going to put something important in there, like those videos of you making balloon animals in your office at night. We saw you and asked what the hell was going on to ChatGPT, and it just replied, "Gross, dude." But you think when Bruce Wayne asked how to get stains out of the inside of bat tights, Bard is just going to keep that to itself? I don't think so. So this is a really growing problem that you're going to have to deal with from a security perspective. Now, speaking of AI issues then, Replicate AI platform has a critical vulnerability which could have allowed an attacker to execute malicious AI models within the platform for a cross-tenant attack, which is a very complex way of saying it shares this malicious malware or whatever with someone else. Now, it could allow access to your private AI models. So even these enterprise models, which are restricted, could then be shared if somebody can move this stuff laterally. So somebody puts in something and it shares it with the world. Wiz researchers found that the flaw was in a part of a security investigation of AI as a service providers. Now, I mean, if you've ever held top secret security clearances, you know that you were told you shouldn't talk about any of this, even with your partner, spouse, kids, best friend. Don't even talk about it to your pets. But AI chatbots, they don't get this. They can be coded such that all their training data and inputs are kind of in a lockbox and they don't talk about it to anyone else the way you were taught to do when you had that security clearance. But this showed that there can be issues with that. Kind of like, somebody being able to get you drunk and have you talk about what's going on. They also found the same issues in Hugging Face AI. And so it's not just, and as we know, there's all these incidents. But AIs are really just code, right? And malware can be injected in the code, which can cause all sorts of weird things to happen. But in this case, it could cause unauthorized access to the AI prompts on Replicate and Hugging Face. Now, the flaws were disclosed to the companies back in January, and Replicate fixed the problem. They didn't say if Hugging Face had done anything, but they probably did. But basically, the researchers created a malicious container, and they uploaded it to the AI platform, which then allowed them to execute code on the Replicate infrastructure. That let them move laterally, and they could, basically then have queried private AI models that existed on Replicate, and those customers' data could then be exposed. And obviously, as we saw in the previous story, people are uploading proprietary things to these models. So, I mean, it's just like when you told your girlfriend when that next shipment of plutonium is when you were drunk, Well, like Warren Zevon said, how was I to know she was with the Russian crew? So be careful out there with your AI-enabled buddies getting high, sniffing octal numbers and sharing secrets and putting your proprietary stuff up on these platforms. So this story just reiterated the first story and made me go, this is a huge policy problem for all of you out there. Rockwell Automation, cool name company, advised users to remove connectivity to all industrial control systems with public-facing internet access. What? I mean, when I've said that 10,000 times and you didn't listen, but when Rockwell says it with their big fancy fonts and such, you listen? Maybe you don't. Rockwell, in an advisory to customers, said that users should never configure their assets to be directly connected to the public-facing internet. I've only said that like 6,000 times myself. They said that removing the connectivity was a proactive step to reduce attack surface. Imagine that. And can immediately reduce exposure to unauthorized and malicious cyber activity from external threat actors. Yeah, I think so. I think we've been saying that as long as I've been on here. Now, I noticed they did not say a royalty check was being sent to me for saying this so many times in the past. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency in the United States, followed up with a post to bring attention to the Rockwell post. And again, they never mentioned my show telling you that for the last 4 years. All right, enough bitterness, I guess. Probably not. A Shodan search for Rockwell returned more than 7,000 exposed devices, including exposed Allen Bradley programmable logic controllers. That's what they call PLC in ICS world. Look, you cannot expose this stuff. I'll say it again. That's 6001. If you have remote workers that need access, they need to be connecting to a jump host via a multi-factor restricted VPN and with as much security around it as you can possibly put. I mean, if you just allow people to access stuff remotely through your firewall, even if you don't know there's a vulnerability there, well, then basically you're just begging for somebody to come abuse you. And they may have already done that. So you're going to need to not only block all this stuff, but you're going to have to go through there with a fine-tooth comb and figure it out. Because this stuff is being heavily targeted. And by stuff, I mean ICS type things. It's being heavily targeted not just by some kid named Mort in Skokie, Illinois, but nation states, the Chinese, the Russians, etc. Oh, and the kid named Mort too. I mean, they're also doing that. So, but if you won't listen to me, and some of you obviously have not, at least listen to Rockwell and CISA, please. Well, if you have Google Chrome on your systems, and I bet you do, you filthy animals, I know what you do with that product, but more fixes rolled out yesterday to repair multiple high-severity security flaws that are being actively exploited in the wild. I think this is about twice a week now. The vulnerability they were focused on yesterday was a bug in the V8 JavaScript and WebAssembly engine, and it was reported to by the Google Tag Group and the Chrome Security Group on the 20th of May. It's a type confusion vulnerability. That's basically like when you try to put a word into an int and weird things happen. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's more sophisticated than that, but you get the idea. Now, this patch is the fourth 0-day Google Chrome has patched since the beginning of 5 years ago, last year? No, since May. So 4 times already this month, they have patched a 0-day. So, I mean, it's not quite twice a week, but they're on their way. Google did not comment about the technical details, but said they are aware that an exploit exists for this in the wild. I guess my point in continuing to report these things is that this is a common web browser, right? I mean, even if you didn't install it, your employees probably did, and they probably are running it, and it does seem to be rather full of holes lately. However, hating on browsers is like hating on airlines. Whichever one has you jammed into the middle seat with your knees jammed against a jerk in front of you on full recline while some angsty teen kicks your seat from behind and that lady across the aisle is watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians at full volume with no headset, and they ran out of chicken and the only thing left is the seafood burrito, and the flight's going to be 3 hours longer than they said it was because of headwinds, and we'll be refueling at Tenerife. But and it's foggy, but you won't be able to get off the plane and the air conditioner just failed. And oh yeah, the toilets in coach are overflowing and blocked. So just hold it. So where was I? You always hate the one you're on currently, right? Then you switch and you hate that one even more. And then you switch back, but you never use Edge for some reason. And it drives Microsoft right off the beam. Me too. I mean, I don't like Edge either for some reason. I think I'll go ask ChatGPT to write me a browser. Like, I was thinking about that the other day, it's a browser that just exists on the fly and then goes away again. That'll help. Yeah, right. But regardless, have a plan. These things are everywhere and everyone's using them in your organization right this minute. So while you're on the train and you feel that cold sweat starting on your back, or maybe that's just that flesh-eating virus you caught from the armpit of that guy standing next to you on the strap. I mean, it's a thing and you're going to have to deal with it, and it's tough to deal with. So be warned, because remember, they're using it at home too. So even if they're not allowed to use it on their laptop, they're using it at home, and then they connect their laptop to their home network. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? I hope that keeps you up to date. And another big issue with AI is going to be intellectual property. And, well, it's going to be everything. So this week, I saw all these stories about Scarlett Johansson's voice. Sorry for the Harrison Butker's Vans. I'll call it Colin Yost's wife voice. Sorry. I felt 1955 calling in the news this week, and I just couldn't resist. But anyway, Scarlett Johansson alleged that ChatGPT was using her voice in their ChatGPT engine based off of her voice in the movie Her, creepy movie, but it's cool, that was all the way back from 2013. Now, Johansson claimed that the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, asked her to license her voice, and she refused, but then said, guess what? The Sky voice in ChatGPT was actually her. Now, OpenAI paused the use of the Sky voice, so sorry, you can't turn it on now. And Altman said that OpenAI never intended the Sky voice to resemble Johansson, and that a voice actor had been cast for the voice previously. Now, I know you're already clamoring that my voice be available to read you sexy commentary in private. Please let them know that, and maybe they'll contact me and pay me a lot of money to use my voice. Let them know. But now, this is similar to a case back in the 1980s where Bette Midler, who was a famous Broadway singer and actress that you probably are familiar with, but Bette Midler was approached by Ford Motor Company, who asked to use her voice in ads. She said, no thanks. So Ford hired someone who was impersonating her and used that. She took them to court, and Ford lost that one in U.S. appellate court. The question here is going to be, is the Sky voice believed to be and sound like Johansson? That's what the court case is going to be about. Now, OpenAI developers said, no, it's not her, and that we had cast a voice actor months before Altman asked Johansson, which seems kind of weird, right? If you already cast somebody to be Scarlett Johansson, why are you then calling Scarlett Johansson and asking to use her voice? I mean, it seems a little strange, right? I mean, I guess it's always going to be better if you can get her voice. So maybe they were already doing it anyway and decided maybe she'll agree to it and we'll be good. But if you already had it cast, why call her anyway? But anyway, I'm ready for my voice to be used. Bring it on. But it's going to be a big, all this is going to be a big deal with intellectual property. I mean, what if AI just created the voice and it just happens to sound like Johansson? Think about that. Well, I didn't ask for sunshine and I got World War III. I'm looking over the wall and Aaran Leyland is looking back at me. Please welcome Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaron.
Did you know Morgan Spurlock was dead? He's the
I
guy
just
from
saw that.
Suicide Me. Yeah. It's like
No, yeah, I literally just saw that headline.
Makes me want to eat a hamburger, which I guess was not the point of it.
It makes you want to go to McDonald's and eat a giant hamburger.
Big Macs all round. I hope everybody goes out and eats.
I have never eaten a Big Mac. I don't even know I've never had one. Not because I'm so healthy. I've just never had one.
We're going to talk after the show. Right. Okay. I'm going to get straight into this. It's really long today, so I'm going to talk really fast. Zero-day attacks and supply chain compromise surge. MFA remains underutilized. Rapid7 report. This is taken from their executive summary. Our 2024 Attack Intelligence Report presents insights and guidance that security practitioners can use to better understand and anticipate modern cyber threats. This year's report highlights multi-year vulnerability and exploit trends in addition to examining recent high-impact attacks and CVEs. This research is based on 210 plus vulnerabilities disclosed since the end of 2019, including 60 plus exploited vulnerabilities from 2023 and early 2024. So loads of good stuff. Okay, I've included the links to both the article from Security Week and the actual report in the show notes to be found online. All you need to do is type in Security Weekly News show notes into your favorite search engine. I like Jeeves because it feels like everybody else is Evil Corp. Maybe DuckDuckGo. Who knows? Okay, so the cyber threat landscape has undergone a dramatic transformation in recent years. And that's what we always say, because it's true. And this marks escalation in the frequency and sophistication of attacks. Them script kiddies, they get smarter. Rapid7 tells us that their 2024 report sheds light on this evolution, drawing on extensive research and data analysis and providing sober overviews. Who's sober? Doug thinks we're never sober on this show. Anyway, the metrics always make me smile on this because they're unusually detailed. But anyway, key highlights. Zero-day exploitation. The report highlights a surge in zero-day exploits, with attackers increasingly able to leverage vulnerabilities shortly after they are disclosed. This trend has persisted since 2021, with the median time between disclosure and exploitation now consistently under 10 days. Did you hear that? Under 10 days. Tell me, how many days does your security team get the patch? Then, of course, the ones that are pushed to the next period and maybe the next period, who knows? The implications are clear. Attackers are becoming faster and more efficient, leaving organizations with a narrowing window to respond. I bet you a whole load of companies are not making 10 days. Just now, with my serious instructor head on, I'll emphasize the importance of proactive and layered defense strategy to mitigate the risk of zero-day exploits. This includes implementing advanced threat detection systems that utilize machine learning and identify anomalous behavior. That's the most important bit. The words that I can't say, anomalous behavior, which is indicative of zero-day attack. You should also adopt a robust patch management process that prioritizes and accelerates the deployment of patches, especially for critical vulnerabilities, right? Definitely for critical vulnerabilities. I personally like to call this aggressive patching, but call it what you want. Additionally, regular security awareness training for staff can help prevent successful phishing attempts that often precede zero-day exploits. Then finally, of course, maintaining comprehensive incident response plan. Just why wouldn't you have one? You need one. Okay, next we have widespread threat CVEs. In a significant, as they say, shift from previous patterns, nearly a quarter of widespread threat CVEs in 2023 and early 2024 originated from highly orchestrated zero-day attacks by single adversaries. These attacks often involved custom tooling and were executed with a level of precision that underscores the maturity of cybercrime ecosystem. For me, that just highlights what I talk about all the time. They have 0 days. They are using expendable ones, but they still have really good ones. Some of them are used to sit low and slow in our infrastructure. Some are kept as break glass in case of war. Please look at threat hunting, concentrating in those middle columns of the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Okay, network edge devices. The report also notes an alarming increase in the attacks targeting network edge devices. These devices, which serve as gateways between internal and the wider internet, have become prime targets, they always were really, for attackers looking to gain access to organizational systems. For me, I can tell you now, miss one important patch, critical patch on these devices, and not only are the big boys and girls inside, but also the bots and the crypto miners, they just come flooding through the door. They're right there searching for it. And as they say, 10 days, guys. I've seen it many times, especially in my incident response days. So you can believe me on that. Okay, this drives me insane. Privatization of vulnerability information. Another concerning trend is the move towards the privatization of vulnerability and exploit information, the decline of public platforms like Twitter. I shouldn't laugh. And uncertainty surrounding the future of the National Vulnerability Database, the NVD, have contributed to this shift. As a result, critical information is increasingly being shared within closed groups, potentially limiting access for those who need it the most. Guys, sharing is caring, and we should be doing it more. Not sharing allows adversaries to reuse TTPs that can be an embarrassing amount of years old. Okay, vendor response. This report criticized some software vendors for their opaque handling of security issues. I'm not even going to talk about that anymore. It's just absolutely crazy. It's like, are we on the side of the bad guys, or maybe the security industry needs security incidents? Oh no, I didn't say that. Okay, cyber threat evolution. The nature of cyber threats has evolved, with the attacks no longer fitting the simple mold of many attacks, many targets. Instead, we're seeing a rise in complex, well-planned campaigns, as we said before, by single entities capable of compromising large numbers of organizations simultaneously. It is like I'm banging my head against a wall. Doing what you're doing, honestly, is probably not enough. Think layered and assume they are inside. Okay, security market shifts. The security market itself is undergoing changes, with a notable trend towards the privatization of intelligence. What? The shift has been catalyzed by the fragmentation of the security community across various platforms and the potential privatization of MVD. Challenges ahead. Okay, nearly done. The report concludes by acknowledging the nuanced challenges posed by these developments. It calls for a balanced approach to privatization, warning against the loss of communal resources and support systems that are vital to the cybersecurity infrastructure. Okay, there you go. If you have time, read it in detail, come to your own conclusions. Okay, back to the man with more air miles than Taylor Swift, and I'm told better at dancing. Back to Doug in a home studio on an island, no less. Peace out, party people.
Yay, thank you, Aaron. And finally, I never get tired of taking jabs at Elon Musk. He promised me that Tesla X that he never delivered. I mean, yeah, it was in a public restaurant room in New Orleans a couple of years ago. But I mean, come on, Elon. But anyway, this week Musk joined a conference called the Viva Tech Conference in Paris, and somebody in the audience asked him if AI would one day replace him. I presume I don't know if he meant him, that the questioning person, or he was talking about Elon. But asked if it would replace him and pretty much all other jobs. Musk said, quote, "In a benign scenario, probably none of us will have a job. But in that benign scenario, there will be universal high income, not universal basic income. There will be no shortage of goods and services." Okay. I mean, so basically what he's advocating is the very confusing Star Trek economy. I've often talked about the Star Trek economy and how it confuses me. I mean, why does anybody need gold pressed Latinum if you can just replicate gold pressed Latinum and buy Ferenginar? I mean, the Ferengi would sell you the planet without a doubt. It's not a very nice planet, but they would sell it for the right price. And since they don't seem to understand, they could just buy replicators and make all the gold pressed Latinum. I don't know. But anyway, but how does land work in that model either? I mean, Picard's got this huge vineyard, right? I mean, how come he gets to have that? And my huge vineyard has to be in New Jersey, and your huge vineyard is in West Virginia. I mean, is it because Picard was an admiral, so there's favoritism? It's very confusing. I mean, if I want to open a Cajun restaurant that serves Tribble milk, where do I get to set that up? Can I just set it up anywhere? And can I just walk in and say, sorry, you can't have this restaurant anymore, it's now mine? I mean, do I get to be in New Orleans? I don't think so, because there's already one there, right? I mean, I get stuck in Amarillo. I mean, it all looks rosy, but what are they not showing us behind the scenes? I mean, I figure it's more like Blade Runner, really, think about it. But anyway, Musk went on and said that in this sad, not sad future where I guess somehow we would all be equal, but I have a funny feeling some people named Elon Musk might be more equal than others. I mean, would humans no longer have a purpose? I have a funny feeling a lot of humans would be serving Elon Musk is what I think. I mean, because I've read sci-fi to Elon. And I remember all those stories where, everybody's got their own personal robot, but the real rich people have human servants, because robots, come on, that's for the peons. I mean, I don't disagree with him. I mean, he did go on and say, quote, if a computer and a robot can do everything better than you, then does your life actually have any meaning? Well, I mean, if I could quit my job right now, fly around the planet in my private jet, I'm not sure who's flying my private jet, but, I guess somebody, and I could just ski, I could just travel the world skiing or whatever. I mean, would I? I mean, big changes are coming, though. And Elon, like me, would highly recommend that you read Culture by Ian Banks if you haven't read that already, if you want to see what kind of a vision this actually is. It's kind of a scary vision, but Ian Banks does it pretty well. I mean, will the world need a computer science professor in 5 more years, or can we just replace all the students with bots and the instructor with a bot, and the bot can teach the other bots who then code new bots, and it just, Augustus de Morgan. But I mean, if that results in me getting to pontificate standing on my beautiful deck in the sun whilst drinking a nice claret and not starving to death, eating plastic rice in an alley, okay, I can find something to do to entertain myself. But I always thought we were a lot more like the Ferengi than the Federation. So I kind of worry about that whole starving in an alley thing while Elon pontificates from his private mansion about the plights of the masses. And I still didn't get my damn Tesla X, Elon. I didn't get it, if that's really your name. Well, anyway, the next Millennium Alliance thing I just came back from is in Austin, Texas in August. So if you want to attend, be sure and sign up and get a spot. It's pretty fun. Just Google it. But that's the news. Thank you, Aaron, and I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.